The Business of Cleaning, the podcast that brings cleaning industry expertise straight to your ears. We interview professionals from all over to bring our listeners knowledge of how to achieve success within their business. Season 1 is about change management and enabling you to both face and create change in all aspects of your company. We're talking management, HR, suppliers, and more. Let's sweep right into the episode. Hello, and welcome to the Business of Cleaning podcast. My name is Haley Morris, and I am your podcast coordinator and host. Today with us, I have Guy Harris, and Guy Harris is going to go ahead and start us off by telling us about his company and what he does there. So Guy, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yep. So the company I work for, I'm the sales manager. It's a certified maintenance service. We're based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we have a subsidiary company called Max Defense Antimicrobial Service. And so, we're on the parent company, Certified Maintenance Service. We've been in business, 25 plus years, and our Max Defense Antimicrobial Service we've been doing for 10 years. And so, we're a commercial janitorial company. We're in Chattanooga, Nashville, Knoxville, Huntsville, Alabama, a little town called Cleveland, Tennessee, and Dalton, Georgia. So on the janitorial side of things, and we're nationwide on the Max Defense side of things. So glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. It's great to have you. And so what I want to start off first is talking about, when we talked before, we mentioned that a lot of what you do with Max Defense started after the 2008 recession. And so I just wanted to kind of go back a little bit, since we are in a period of recession right now and we're starting to kind of lift back up again, but it's still a struggle for many. So I want to go ahead and jump back a little bit to 2008 and start there, where your Max Defense story did start. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about what happened in that recession.
So in 2008, we, with the economy took a little downturn. And I remember I opened up the Chattanooga Times Free Press, which is our newspaper here. And I, like, on the business section, it said, how to save money if you own or manage a company. And it said, cut out your security, your landscaping, and your janitorial. And I read it and I thought, oh gosh, this is terrible for us. And so, we had a lot of customers that went from 5 days to 2-day service, or 5 days to one. And so, in the 25, 26 years we've been in business, we've generally had growth every year. And that year, we started to see, like, oh, we're kind of flatlining here, and taking a dip in revenue. So we thought, well, what can we do? So at the time, we had never bid on federal jobs before, and so I thought, well, let's give it a crack here. And so we discovered a website where we could go on, and a lot of the listeners here probably are familiar with it, where you could go on and get, basically where every federal janitorial bid was bidding. And so we started doing that, and we started winning some of them, and we ended up getting about 30 or 40 federal accounts. And and that was nice. But the deal is, the margins are slim on them. The billing's kind of a headache. So, but we ran across one, and I wrestled in high school and college. And at the time I was refereeing, just in the community here. And so a big thing in the wrestling world at the time was skin, staph and, fungus type skin issues. And so I ran across this federal bid, and it was at West Point Military Academy. And it said, deep clean their combat training rooms, which was essentially their wrestling rooms, and clean them, disinfect them, apply an antimicrobial coating that was a durable coating that wouldn't just wipe off, and then do swab testing before and after, and then present a post-treatment report, to the military. And so I read that, and I thought, excuse me, oh, this is interesting, and the antimicrobial coding part of it interested me too, because I wasn't really familiar with it at the time. And so I just kind of researched around and found a company that, manufactured the coating and had a service providing team that did what they wanted. And so I contacted them and we arranged a deal where basically they went out and did the job for us. And we billed the government, we made money, they made money. And when it was all said and done, I said to them, I said, hey, can you teach me what you guys just did? And so they said, sure, you're going to pay us. And so, so we paid them, we paid them for the training and then created our system based on that. That was kind of the nuts and bolts and, how it got started and everything. So here we are 10 years later with that. It was a nice, when this COVID thing hit, um, we had a system in place. And so our system, the Max Defense antimicrobial system, is CDC compliant for COVID-19, cleaning and disinfecting. It goes beyond really what the CDC requires. And so when the COVID hit in March, I mean, we hit the ground running. And so, we didn't have to create marketing materials or, invent a disinfection process. And so, so we were kind of ready for that. And for 10 years, we've serviced, of course, our markets, but outside of our markets, we realized that we couldn't get to all those places. So we've sold our training to other janitorial companies and allowed them to use, our branding, our, marketing materials and training procedures. And we give them, they can buy direct from our manufacturers that we buy from. We don't mark it up or anything. So we essentially sell our training to them. And then, of course, we assist with marketing and lead generations and jobs and that sort of thing for our service providers. So that's how we got started. And here we are 10 years later.
It's really impressive to see, a company, especially within the cleaning space, that took something that could have easily been a bad situation with the 2008 recession and turned it into an opportunity. And it wasn't like, boom, it happened. It was a little bit of a process, it sounds like, to get there, but you did eventually get there.
It was, yeah, it
So,
definitely was a process. And I, when I was talking to a, a guy that owns a small janitorial company in the Carolinas, and he's interested in becoming a service provider. And I'm like, listen, you can do what we do, right? But it's taken us 10 years to kind of fine tune it. I mean, you can go out and create your own brand and create your procedures and processes, figure out where to get the chemicals from and all this. I said, we've spent over $100,000, getting this system in place over the years. And so I said, but, or you can just pay for our training and you get everything and we have you ready to roll, offering disinfection services to your clients in, probably a week or less, so that's kind of the benefit. It's a turnkey system. There's a lot of janitorial companies that may not be part of a franchise, because the franchises have got things locked down. They've got their systems in place. They've got their marketing materials. But for the independent, janitorial companies, it's cost money to get a graphic designer and, build a website and, figure out, the SEO stuff on it. And so, so here we are, we can kind of help them and level the playing field, I think, and get them, offering that service to their clients. And, it's good business. It's good, profitable business. We're fair with our pricing to our clients and they appreciate that because people know when you're gouging them. And in a time like this, we've had a lot of our clients just really appreciate that, that we give fair pricing on our service and because people will remember when the dust settles, people will remember if you took advantage of them.
That's true. It's very true. So kind of going back to the idea of the franchise versus the service provider, just to kind of nail home that what is or how would you define the difference between a franchisee and someone who's a service provider for something like Max Defense?
Yeah, so I get that question frequently, and it's, people ask us, "Hey, are you selling a franchise?" And I'm like, "No, we're not selling a franchise. We're just selling our training, our knowledge, our marketing materials." And so, when we sell our training and a company becomes a service provider, you know, they go out and get their own jobs. They can put a link on their website to our maxdefensesystem.com website, and the jobs that they get, we don't take anything from it. And it's a one, there is an annual renewal fee, of course, and it's modest, but and the training is very affordable. And so yeah, so it's not a franchise. We just simply sell the training. Now, if we bring them a job, like if we're doing, Google marketing, and through one of our leads, we secure a job and a contract for it, we'll give them the job, but we take a piece out of that action because, we have to pay for Google, and Google's not Google's not exactly cheap these days.
Oh, and then you're also kind of acting as a lead provider at that point too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, and actually more of a lead provider. It's a job provider. When we call them, we're not saying, "Hey, here's a lead, go run it down." We're saying, "Here's a job. This is a job, and we need you to do it. It's in your marketplace." And there's still there. It's it should. I'm into win-wins, and you know the service provider still wins when we provide them a job. you
that's
know
awesome.
and we take, yeah, of course we take something out of it, but that covers our marketing costs, really.
Mhm. Now, the CMS, do you guys still act as your own service provider for Max Defense?
Yes. Yeah, so when we created the system, we created the system, and then we became a service provider of our system. And so in our market, we're certified maintenance, is an authorized service provider of the Max Defense system, which we created. So yeah, and so that's so we're the only we're the only service provider exclusive in our area, but that's because we don't want to sell the training to any of our competitors locally here. Sorry.
It does make a little sense to not drive away your
Yeah.
own business.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yes.
so when I was looking over the website for Max Defense, I noticed that it was a 5-step process. Would you mind going over those 5 steps for us?
Oh, sure. So it's a clean, a kill, a coat, a swab or a test, and then a document. So it's clean, kill, coat, swab, and document. And so basically, the CDC requires that you manually clean the touch points, right? And then disinfect them. And so and a lot of our customers don't know that when we get a call for COVID-19, a lot of our clients uh, say, "Yeah, can you guys just come in with the electrostatic and spray?" We had someone test positive, and so you kind of have to educate the client on, all right, the CDC requires that you clean those touch points first, and then you disinfect. So we use electrostatic sprayers. We use Victory electrostatic sprayers. We have a great relationship with the local distributor here at Chatham. And so we use the Victory backpack and handheld sprayers. And so we clean the surfaces, and then we apply the disinfectant. Of course, it has all the proper kill claims on it with the electrostatics. And then we put the antimicrobial coating on. And then we do swab testing. We actually do the swab testing before and after. So it gives us pre and post treatment numbers. And we use ATP. We use ATP meters. And then the last thing is the documentation. And I tell clients, I say, like, the documentation is super important because, you know, in the safety world, if you don't document it, you didn't do it. And so they get a post-treatment report from us, tells us, what chemicals were used, what services were done, how long the chemicals were down, what technicians were on the job. And so, they get that. Usually it takes us about a day to get them that after the job is done. They get a certificate and a window sticker and all these things. So that's the 5-step. It's a clean, kill, coat, test, and a document.
It's nice from your side. You've done your due process so that should any questions arise, you can come back and say, exactly, this has happened. But just for future tracking, if you want to make a change, you also already have a basis for starting. And I think some people, when they institute a new process or things, they forget what that basis is for starting so that when they measure it later, they can actually compare and see, is this effective? Is this something we want to continue to evolve with or not? So
Yes, and so the swabbing part of it is really cool. Yeah, and here's the thing with ATP meters, they're measuring base ATPs, and I always butcher the pronunciation. It's andenisin triphosphate, and someone will probably correct me on my pronunciation of that. But that's basically the energy source for bacteria. So viruses host to get their energy, so they don't have ATP. So the ATP meter is, it's not the silver bullet. It doesn't tell you if there's, the COVID or coronavirus, on the surface. But what it does do, in a lot of food and service and medical, use ATP meters as kind of a benchmark for cleanliness. And so it gives you a good idea of, hey, how clean was this surface before and after? And so we can show our clients like, okay, when we came in, this desk, it swabbed, 500. And when we finished, it swabbed a 5. And, of course, 0 is, you can't use the word sterile, but, 0 is the lowest reading. And so our clients love it. They absolutely love swabbing because people like data, you know, in the clean, especially COVID-19, they don't know if we're spraying water on the surface, so it is, there's obviously a trust factor. And then, but the data of the swabbing, they absolutely love that. And even though it's limited, that, it gives you the, ATP for bacteria, um, clients love data. And now what we've seen is our clients that sign up for, monthly or quarterly services, we see a trend of those ATP swabs pre-treatment going down. And then this is kind of a bias, but unbiased thing here. But our clients where we do the cleaning and we do the max defense get our lowest swab numbers. So it's something that if they sign up monthly and they do it for a year or 2 years, we can really track those numbers and even give them a readout of those. So anyway, yeah. So the ATP is a nice piece of that. I say this. I say none of the 5s. Nothing here is rocket science. But I think what we've done is we've put together a really nice system and we've packaged it and put a bow on it. And you take one piece out, or you divide this system up. It's not terribly complicated, but it all wrapped together with our marketing and everything. It's just a nice system.
it's very interesting too. It's like you said, you now have that data, and it's really cool to see that people who are consistent with the use and with your cleaning, you see that decrease over time of, how much is coming back. Um, which is kind of cool because it goes into that question of how long then does this cleaning last? Like how long do they reap the benefits, so to speak, by using your services? And so you can say, well, actually they're long term, especially with continued use. And you
Yes.
have that proof.
And I'll say this, one thing it really does is it identifies, like if we're going in and doing a max defense service, and this is not a one of our regular cleaning customers. Well, when we did a bank, okay, and the check writing counter was pre swab was like a less than a 30, which is really good. You can the meters are generally set at like 100 pass or fail or 150. They sometimes come preset, or you can set your own pass fail. And it kind of depends on, if you're doing an OR, your pass fail needs to be 10 or less. And so, but in a commercial building like a bank, so we did a pre-swab and it was a 30 or less. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was low. And then we went behind the counter and we did the telephone that the tellers use, when the people are driving through. Oh, and it was like in the hundreds, whatever number it was. And so we were able to go back to the client and say, listen, yeah, you guys are doing a great job cleaning the check writing counter, but, but a horrible job. You need to pay a little more attention behind the counter on that telephone back there. It's pretty nasty. So, so anyway, so we can identify, those areas that maybe get, neglected.
It it kind of goes back to, I know a couple of sources I've seen have said, remember with like the everyday person, the precautions that we have to take against COVID is cleaning our own surfaces around us. And I kept seeing a couple things like don't forget your cell phones, right?
Yes, yes,
Because and it makes me think of that nobody thinks to clean a phone. And you
that's
pick
right.
it up all the time. So if you wash your hands and then you pick up the phone which hasn't been cleaned, you put all that gunk right back on it, all the bacteria, any viruses that may be clinging to it. So it's those touch points people aren't thinking of that are actually high contact.
Absolutely. Yep. And so we're able to identify that. And we with each service, we usually do about 3 or 4 random spots. The swabs are, if you buy them from the swab meter we buy is from Hygiena, and I think the swabs cost us like $3 a swab. So, you know, on a the larger the job we're doing, we'll do more swabs. But or if the customer wants to, get a bunch of swabbing done, they pay a little more. But generally, we do about 3 or 4 random spots, and so which ends up being 6 or 8 swabs, because if you're doing 4 spots, you're doing a pre and a post. So, but the meters are really simple to use, and you just have to take care of it. You can't give it to your guys that are going to throw it in the back of it. All the equipment, even the electrostatic sprayers. You have to have. We've got our director that oversees all of our jobs. His name's Dan Sandoval. He came from the IT industry. He actually owned an IT company, and so he sold it, and then he was working for another IT company, and he retired from the IT world. And so we brought him on when COVID hit. Well, this guy, so he is he's so meticulous, and everything's a step by step process. He oversees everything. He oversees the equipment. And if you don't have a guy, that's really caring for your equipment, even electrostatic sprayers, those Victories are high quality sprayers, but you still have to take care of them. The guys can't just throw it in the back of the truck. So it's important to have someone in your company. I think, whether you're a service provider for us or doing your own, that really takes ownership of this disinfection process. We've done 275 jobs since March, just in our area here, and so that's CMS as a service provider. And so it's just you've got to have someone in your, because I can't do it. I'm busy, but we've got a guy, and then he oversees the crews, and he's there. Dan is there with a stopwatch when he sprays down the disinfectant. He's got a stopwatch. And he was an old college wrestling teammate of mine too, so we go back a little bit. He's like a coach out there. They spray down the disinfectant. He's got the timer on him, because the disinfectants have to be down for a certain dwell time. And so anyway, yeah, it's just it's important to have you got to have the right equipment, but you got to have the right people. Business is still done with people. One day this cleaning business will be done maybe by robots, but right now it's still human beings that are doing it. And they still need to be supervised and make sure they're doing the right thing.
And it kind of goes back to what you're talking about, why, a service provider. Why would you want to be a service provider versus starting your own process yourself? And part of you already touched on, which is that idea that it takes years to develop up like a really well thought out like process and practice, and actually be able to support, implement, and market it and make it a usable part of your company. So another reason would be then that training aspect of it. You've got the training down. You already know the pitfalls and the best practice for everything. So you can come in and train, and it cuts back on that implementation time considerably, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, when we first started doing this, a job might take us, 20 man hours, but after we've got our procedures down, that same job now may be done, by 8 to 10 man hours. I mean, just we know, like, I'll go back to Dan. When he goes in the building, I mean, how he gets out of his truck, how he unloads the truck, probably more importantly, how he loads the truck, the loading the truck, unloading, get in the building. What's the first thing you do? You know, it's just boom, boom, boom. And if you follow those procedures, it almost cuts our labor in half, because otherwise you end up, if you're doing a 20,000 square foot office building with cubicles everywhere, and you got, a crew of 3 or 4 people, and they're just kind of fumbling around and crossing over, yeah. So that's another benefit of the system is we'll say, look, you bid the job, right? And if you bid it, and typically it's a 20-hour job, but because you're so efficient, you do it in 10 hours, that's more profit for the service provider. And, the job is still being done, and the steps are followed, and, good for that service provider. I guess what I'm saying is they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I was gonna say that. I was like, it's already there. Why
Yeah.
recreate it? So
Right. Yeah.
all right. So one of my last questions for you is, what plans for this do you have going forward?
So, really, just to continue what we're doing, and, and just see how, we have plans, we have goals for our company, but I've never been one of those guys of, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Or, I always hated those type of questions. I'm the kind of guy that, okay, today we're going to do things right. Today we're going to do things right tomorrow. And then by doing those things and focusing on executing, doing what you say you're going to do, good things naturally happen. And so we've been blessed in our janitorial business. It's very strong, and the max defense system is going great. And so we just want to continue to do this, and and we'll tweak it as we go. That you never know, there may be another pandemic that comes out, and we might have to modify, what chemicals are in the, used in the system. Right now it's pretty basic, disinfectant that's used for the killing. But you never know, if another pandemic comes, we might have to, change chemicals. But that's the good thing about our system is, we can tweak it, and we can, if we have to add in a 6th or 7th step down the road, we'll do that. But right now our 5-step process is working really, really good for us.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
hopefully we don't see another pandemic shortly. I
Oh, I
know.
know. I know. I know. I always say it's like working for a fire, or, remediation company, and someone asks you, how's business? Well, unfortunately it's good. There's, it's, um, it's kind of a weird feeling. And I'll give the analogy of, like, if you're in athletics, and you're running a race, and it's you and the other guy and the other or gal, and they blow out their hamstring and you win the race. Well, you won the race. Okay. You feel good that you won, but you also, you didn't quite want to win it like that. And so this is for us, it's a really unusual time. Like, we're happy for the business. We're happy to we're glad that we can help our communities around us, and that they can call us, and, in a panic, and say, hey, we had someone test positive. Can you guys help us? Yes, we can. We got you. Don't worry. Um, So it's kind of a weird time. It's not like we're running around just high-fiving each other, you know. It is unusual. I am glad and thankful to be in an industry that's needed. I feel for those people that maybe were in an industry that, was not a critical industry during this time and got laid off. Or, I mean, it's hard. It's kind of heartbreaking in a way, you know.
Mhm. Well, history, that was 100 years ago when we had the last one. So hopefully it's more. Or if we come
Yes.
up in 3020 and we have another one that we're prepared, because now we document things a lot better than we did back in
Oh yeah.
1920. So,
And it's something is, when we first started this was kind of a hard sell. Like I would go to our clients and be like, "Hey, we got this great system, our Max Defense antimicrobial," and now this is 10 years ago. There was no pandemic, right?
mhm.
And so it was a hard sell. And so, but then you had the swine flu and all these other things come up, and so sometimes it's busy, and then sometimes it may go down. But what we noticed was when it became part of our repertoire, part of our services offered, when we were out pitching janitorial contracts, and we were able to say, well, we're a commercial cleaning service, we do stripping and waxing, we do carpet shampooing, windows, blah blah blah, and we also have this, and they'd be like, oh, you could it's our clients and our prospects. I think they like to see that maybe you think outside the box a little bit. You've got an extra service there. They may never buy it from you, they may never need it, right? But I really think it has been a critical part of our regular janitorial side of things on our parent company at Certified Maintenance, to help grow our company and help us, help give us these years and years of growth. So, it's kind of like one helps the other,
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you for that. I think it's been an enlightening conversation getting to talk about, the steps, but also what it does for not just you, but anybody else who may choose to do it or work with it, especially during a time where keeping clean is kind of a must more than ever before. So, with that, I have one last question, and that's, what
Sure.
advice would you give to a business listening right now?
In regards to kind of help me narrow that down a little bit, if you don't mind.
So when it comes to maybe keeping up with a crazy workload, because I think with some more businesses migrating back and more people wanting this level, like the max defense level of service, how a business could potentially manage that. Should they be looking at max defense? Should they be maybe exploring their own processes a little bit more? What advice can you give somebody who's kind of, you know, throwing out their feelers at this moment?
So I am really like territorial, like especially with our clients. Like I don't on the janitorial side of things. Oh, I don't like it when another company comes in and says, "Hey, they have this, special whatever service it is, right?" And so I've always kind of been like that. And so I am just really like protective of our customer. I want to service our customers, in the now. We don't try to be all things to all people. We know where our lanes are at. I remember the owner of our company, his brother-in-law needed a job, and he said, well, we'll just start a painting division in our company, because we're in buildings, we see buildings that need painting. And you know what, we weren't that good at it. We tried landscaping, we weren't that good at it, and so we know our lanes. But anything that's in that janitorial lane, and I think now, uh, the game, it's changed. Disinfecting is going to be part of it. Everyone is now adding it in. Before, when you did a janitorial bid, because I do all of our estimating on the janitorial side of things, you wouldn't put in sometimes, disinfecting the doorknobs or all the touch points. Of course, the break rooms and the restrooms, but sometimes doorknobs were not part of the package. But now everything, people want to see it. Oh, that you're disinfecting all those touch points every night. I would, if I had, I would say definitely you've got to look at and if you're not doing these disinfection COVID-19 cleanups, I would say definitely something you want to look at, you know, because you could end up, someone sneaking in there and getting your account from you, and so yeah, I would say for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Guy. And so this is where we're going to wrap up for this week's episode. I really want to thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed having you and going through our discussion today. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in and listened or watched our episode. And I also want to remind you, go ahead and give us a follow wherever you're listening to us now, and leave us a review so that we can continue to provide great content. And if you have a question or a particular need within the cleaning space, that we can also look at addressing that in an episode. So that's it for today. Thank you.